I call on the Jedi hidden across the galaxy. My name is Juro. I am the ruler of High Islan, located in the Outer Rim, and I am seeking to restore the Jedi Order. If you have received this message, then I invite you to the aerial temple of High Islan. There I will present you with one of the long-lost weapons of the Jedi, a lightsaber.
Sorry, got a little excited, Bucketheads. I'm so happy to be back. It's Friday, though you're going to hear this on Monday. But the weekend is here. Things are going. Things are raging in my life right now. So we're going full speed. We're going full throttle. You know, because that's when you're in the Death Star trench, you go full throttle. You know, you just put it all in the engines, get in that trench run, make things happen, blow up Death Stars. That's what we're doing. Oh, yeah. All right. Let's do the show proper, though. Greetings, Bucketheads. Mevar Tigar. Welcome to the 97th lightsaber smithing episode of Mandovision. Nargai Tom. And thank you so much for checking out this small, independent Star Wars podcast. We love you. We need you. We thank you. The best way to reach out to us is via social media at Mando_Vision, Twitter and Instagram. Please email the show. Long form email, mandovisiontom@gmail.com. Be sure to like, subscribe, share the show with all the other Mandalorians in your covert. And if possible or so inclined, sweet, 5-star reviews. The best way to help a show like us stand out, not get lost in the seas of podcasts that exist out there. It's a veritable ocean of podcasts. And 5-star reviews, they help us defy the algorithm and get a little attention on us. And we thank you very much for taking the time to do that. Well, welcome in. We're here. We're still covering Star Wars Visions, and we are to what is arguably the most popular, the most beloved episode of Star Wars Visions thus far. I believe it's rated at a 8.7 as of this recording, putting it above the Duel for the highest rated episode on IMDb. Take that for what you will. You know, everything with these episodes is all about personal preference, so I'm very curious what other people's favorite episodes are in this series, and share that with me. I'd love to know. And maybe by the end, I will tell you my favorites. And this one we're going to talk about today is definitely high on the list. We are here for the 5th episode, The Ninth Jedi, and it is it's the longest episode of the series. It comes in somewhere around 22 minutes, and it's. I don't know. Again, I say, you hear me say a lot of things from episode to episode, particularly when it pertains to visions. But the visual dynamics with this episode, again, just top tier, top notch stuff. A really exciting, thrilling episode. I love it. I think this is a great one. I think there's a fun little plot stuff in there, some little twists to kind of get you. And we're going to talk about all that when we get to the show. In general, we do have to talk about a little bit of news that came out. New York Comic Con is, as I record, it's raging right now in New York City. I talked to a few of my friends who are at the convention, who are there with tables and all kinds of good things going on, and they said things are going well, things are going nicely, people are behaving themselves and being rad, and that's awesome to hear because that means maybe San Diego Comic Con will come back and I'll get to go to that in a year or two. We'll see how it all goes. They are doing that San Diego Comic Con. Sort of like the holiday special version of it, where it's going to be over Thanksgiving weekend, which not a great weekend for me to go and hang out with comic books and Star Wars fans because kind of busy with family stuff, unfortunately. But yeah, people are gonna go. It's gonna be interesting to hear some of the reports and the feedback from that holiday edition of San Diego Comic Con. But yeah, maybe we're getting to the point in the world where we can all go back out again and go to conventions and shake hands with creators and do all that fun stuff. That'd be a real delight. But at the beginning of the convention, I don't know if it coincided with the release or with the start of New York Comic Con, but Del Rey, the publisher of the Star Wars novels and many other Star Wars ephemera, let us know there are more books coming, and we got a little peek at what those new books are, and they're interesting. They're very very interesting. We have Shadow of the Sith by Adam Christopher, which is coming out on June 28th, 2022. And this is a book that I'm very interested in. If you recall back to the last time we were talking about the Star Wars comics, we were talking about the Darth Vader comic and how that book is sort of doing a lot of retroactive continuity, where it's like laying the groundwork for all this stuff that came about in Rise of Skywalker, to try and sort of make it all make sense, to sort of show us that there was a path, that this wasn't just something that was pulled out of thin air, which I it, it I parse my words carefully. I'm not crazy about the Rise of Skywalker film, but it is Star Wars, and so it does have a place in my heart. Um, but yeah, the retroactive continuity going on in that comic book series, where Vader's learning about Exegol and I'm already blanking on the name, but all the other stuff. We meet Ochi of Bastoon and all these things that we see, the Wayfinders, excuse me, that was the word I was trying to think of earlier. The way to get to Exegol, and all this stuff with the Sith Eternal, all these things, all the stuff that we saw in Rise of Skywalker, they are going back to in the Darth Vader book, laying all that foundation in the comics to sort of like, see, Palpatine did this all along. It was Palpatine all along, as some might say if you're a Marvel Universe fan. And this new book, Shadows of the Sith, is sort of the same thing. We are This is about what sort of is alluded to by Lando Calrissian in Rise of Skywalker, that he and Luke were on a hunt. They were chasing down the whispers that Palpatine was out there, and they are hunting for Ochi of Bastoon, who is the character who in the film is the one who is hunting for Rey, for the Palpatine's offspring and their child. That was Ochi's last mission, and I think we know it doesn't go well for Ochi at the end because we see his dead corpse in the movie. Spoilers. But this is a book about Luke and Lando hunting for Ochi of Bastoon, and seeing if they can find any evidence of Palpatine's return. And yeah, it's interesting. It's sort of funny the amount of effort being spent to do like a lot of retroactive continuity stuff on Star Wars' part. But I'm still intrigued by the novel. I'm sure Adam Christopher will do a fine job with it. And yeah, I mean, I'm intrigued. I'm not going to turn my nose to any of it. I want to read it. I want to see what they say. If it's no good, we will talk about it on the podcast in a fair, even-handed manner, because that's how we try to do things here. We try to stay positive, but we can talk about things critically. We're adults, I hope. And the other book we have is called Brotherhood, and this will be about Obi-Wan and Anakin Skywalker, and sort of the way their relationship changes after Anakin is promoted to Jedi Knight. So they go from that sort of student master and sort of a almost a parental relationship that they have initially as master and student, to one of being brothers, to sort of the forming of their brotherhood. And I'm definitely interested in that. When you've listened to episodes of this podcast where we're talking about stuff from Star Wars, the Clone Wars in the animated series, one of the interesting pieces about their relationship in that show is because the Clone Wars, especially in these early seasons, doesn't tell linear storytelling. Like, it jumps all over the place in the chronology. So at some points, depending on the episode, like you have an Anakin and Obi-Wan with a very different relationship. sort of like early on in this relationship, like we're talking about, like Obi-Wan sort of coming to grips with the fact that Anakin is an equal now, and he can't just order him around. He's no longer the master of the situation, and Anakin growing into a from a student into a full blown knight. So it's an interesting paradigm on the show to watch and see how that shakes out, especially as you're kind of jumping through Clone Wars chronology all over the place. This book sounds like it should be a lot of fun. I'm really interested in exploring the dynamics of their relationship, the sort of transition into brothers, and I'm excited and intrigued about that one in particular. That's the one I'm looking forward to the most, and that one's written by Mike Chen. And it will be out May 10th, 2022. So that one's actually coming out first before Shadow of the Sith. But yeah, interesting stuff. Just new books to read coming out. I'm excited. I'm still catching up on my back catalog of Star Wars novels. I may have told this story before, but when I was going back to school and trying to finish my degree and doing all that good stuff, as an English major, it required me to read an inordinate amount of books for my major, and an inordinate amount of books every week, like 5 to 6 books a week I was having to read. And unfortunately, it pushed my Star Wars reading off for a couple years. And I'm just getting back into all that good stuff. And I got a lot to catch up on because I was back in school for a very long time. It took a minute, that's for sure. But yeah, we're getting caught up now. And so that's been kind of fun, especially kind of seeing the way things have shaken out in the Star Wars universe overall. So exciting stuff. But we are not here to talk about my book reading habits at the moment. We are here to talk about Star Wars Visions number 5, The Ninth Jedi. So let's go ahead and do that right now. So you know what you need to do. The most important part of the show, other than hitting play and downloading it, the most important part of the show, it's time. Strap on your buckets. Let's go.
Interesting. So you can change the length on this one?
Actually, I've tempered the kyber crystals on each lightsaber so it reflects the user's connection with the Force.
Episode 5 of Star Wars Visions, The Ninth Jedi. We talked about it already. The longest episode of the series, and of course, the highest rated episode of the series as well. At a time of recording, averaging an 8.7 on the IMDb, if that matters to you at all. And the plot for this week's episode, the daughter of a lightsaber smith is pursued by dark forces while on a dangerous mission. And that pretty much hits the nail on the head, don't you think? They pretty much got that one right off the bat, and good for them. All right, The Ninth Jedi is Production IG. That's the name of the studio that brought this to us. It is written and directed by the same person, Kenji Kamiyama. And I think it's pretty cool when you got the writer and director on this. Supposedly, according to like the sort of lore around the episode, the episode's based on 2 ideas for 2 separate stories, and they kind of merged it together. And that's one reason why it's a bit of a longer version, or a longer episode than on average. They took 2 ideas, put them together, chocolate and peanut butter. It always makes it a better time. So I think that makes a ton of sense. Our cast for the episode, Kamiko Glenn is Kara, Simu Liu, is Zahima, Andrew Kishino is Margrave Juro, Masi Oka is Ethan, Greg Chun is Rodin, and we go through a big vast amount of characters. Eva Kaminsky as Nizo, Patrick Setz as Homan, Michael Stingerglass as Hinji and the Jedi Hunter, Adam Seitz as Henbei, Kyle McCarley as Torgoro, J.P. Karlik as the Boatman Droid, and Neil Kaplan is our narrator on this episode. And let's talk about that narration real quickly. I really enjoyed that aspect of this episode. I like that they kind of, a lot of these specials, they kind of throw us in, and we are sort of, asked to parse out what's going on. In this one, I think there's so much going on that they wanted to kind of give us a feel for what world this is that we're looking at, like what we're seeing in this interpretation of Star Wars. And this episode, to me, is a wonderful blending of Star Wars and samurai lore. The samurai sword maker is a big part of their history, of their culture, and you infuse that idea with Star Wars with someone who makes lightsabers. It's a really neat, fun idea to explore. I think the 2 things blend together really, really nicely. Obviously, the Jedi and the samurai have a ton in common. Jedi. Obviously, very heavily inspired by the samurai, the Kota Bushido, all that stuff, all that good stuff. What I think's funny, what really makes me laugh a little bit, I like to, throughout the series, I've enjoyed reading user reviews of the individual episodes, particularly the negative reviews. They always provide a nice chuckle, and we talked about it before. One of the common themes in these negative reviews is it's not Star Wars. Doesn't feel like Star Wars. Isn't Star Warsy enough? And in a lot of ways, this episode is the most Star Warsy of them all, but also the most different of them all too. It takes a lot of things that we're very familiar with, a lot of concepts that we're very, very familiar with, and it completely upends them, and lets us look at them in a different way. Like we all know that in the canon, in the lore, Jedi's the Padawans make their own lightsabers. They go, they get the crystal, they make their own lightsabers. There is no lightsaber smith. But what a fun idea to explore! What a fun idea to play with in this far-flung world that we find ourselves in. There's also a little bit of a rumor that this episode takes place long after the events of Rise of Skywalker. I don't know about that. I can't verify that. There was not anything that led me to believe that was the case. But like I said, it doesn't really matter because it's just a fun story, a fun interpretation of Star Wars. And again, the blending of the Japanese culture is really strong in this one. And I love the idea of a lightsaber smith, of a person whose their entire job is to forge these lightsabers. They have this relationship with the kyber crystals, and they're able to hone them and get, I don't know. I was going to say manipulate, but that's not the word I want to use. I'm not a blacksmith, so I can't say these things correctly. But they forge these crystals. They do different things with them, and they get different things to happen with them. And again, we played the clip where Jiang is talking about how each Force user is going to be able to use that lightsaber differently, how the color is part of who they are as a Jedi. And it leads to a very interesting moment later in the show, and we will definitely be talking about that soon. Much like the episode before this one, The Village Bride, this episode has really great animation, really great colors. The world that it's creating really pops visually, and I think that's, again, another kind of staple of some of my favorite animes that I know. And again, I don't know a ton. Just a reminder, I do not know a ton about anime, and I couldn't tell you who these studios, what they're known for, other than this. And I kind of like it. I think that allows me to go into this clean. I don't have a lot of preconceived notions of who these people are and what they've done before and how that might impact or influence their take on Star Wars. So I can just watch this as a fan and enjoy it as it is. And this episode, again, if I didn't say it earlier enough, I really like this episode. It's really, really great. We get a lot of fun stuff. We go to the temple where these Jedi have all been summoned. They've received a summon from Margrave Juro, excuse me, and he's called them there because there are all these Jedi now in the galaxy, and they're not even Jedi; they're more like Force users, right? Like it's a little vague. The world we create, like the Jedi Order, seems to be non-existent, other than the Sith, who seem to be ruling. But now there's masterless Jedi. So are they really Jedi if there's no masters to teach them? I'm a little unclear on the rules. But we meet Ethan. He is a Jedi, at the very least a Padawan. And he's come to the temple. He has received the summons to come and get lightsabers and bring back the Jedi Order, end the war that's tearing the galaxy apart. And, again, it's all very Star Wars-y like. And it's a fascinating interpretation of the Star Wars myth. Like I said, I like this episode because I think it does a really nice job of looking at Star Wars. Like, it changes things, but it also stays very true to Star Wars in so many ways. And I really, really enjoyed that aspect of it. But yeah, so we find these other Jedi that are there, and we start. I think if you're like me, you're counting how many Jedi on the screen. You're like, ooh, who's going to be this ninth Jedi? What's going on here? Because you're counting up all the people on the screen. You got 7. You're like, man, there's 2 more. Who are the 2 going to be? And we sort of get to the mystery of what's going on here. The Jedi have come to this site. They want to receive these lightsabers. They want to know who this person is. Is he trustworthy? Is this a trap? Because the Jedi are being hunted. They're being killed once again. And yeah, they want to know, is Jaru trustworthy, or is this a trick? At least that would be what it seems is going on the surface. At least for Ethan. Ethan is our very very innocent young Padawan, young Jedi in training, if you will. We also get to see a very interesting form of mining, which is from the surface, plucking asteroids that are in orbit around the planet and smashing them down onto the surface. And that's how you get your kyber crystals. So another element of this episode, we talked about it prior in earlier episodes of Visions, how there are certain themes that pop up throughout every episode of Visions. And whether that's intentional or not, I don't know. But kyber crystals are a very big deal, a very interesting facet of the Star Wars mythology that the Japanese creators really focused on, really latched onto the idea of the kyber crystals and lightsabers in particular. I think because of the obvious connection to samurai culture, but yeah, the focusing on of kyber crystals is very interesting. I think that's very fascinating and very unique to each story, the way they're kind of using the crystals. And again, it's not in every episode, but you're starting to see it more and more. I think we've got at least 3 episodes now with kyber crystals playing a fairly an important role in the narrative, if you will. So cool, really cool. Like I said, I know I'm going back over myself a little bit here, but I just dig this episode so much. The way it reinterprets, but is still so true to Star Wars is just so spot on. So spot on. So you got what's going on up at the temple in orbit, and then we cut down to the planet where we meet Kara. It's Kara, right? I didn't mess that up? Yeah, it's Kara. And we meet her father, who is the lightsaber smith, and he's making the new blades, and they have these wonderfully beautiful, intricate hilts. We see him, again, forging the kyber crystals. We played the clip earlier in the segment about how he's kind of imbued into the kyber crystals this ability to register like whose connection to the Force can do what, and it enables the lightsabers to be different. The colors, the size, the shapes. The shapes. Not the shapes are still pretty the same. I mean, like the length, though. Things like that, determined by the Force user's connection to the Force. And again, another interesting aspect, another interesting interpretation of the lore. And that's all we can ask from these Visions episodes is give us something interesting, like spin Star Wars in such a way that it's familiar yet different. I think that's the key element to so many of the episodes of Visions, and some of the best ones are the ones who have, at least to me, my favorite ones have been the ones that seem to go back into tying the samurai culture and Japan's culture into Star Wars. Those have been some of my favorite ones, and we'll talk about that more in another upcoming episode. I think, again, you've watched Visions, you know where I'm going with that. But yeah, we cut down to the planet. We find out that someone's hunting. The dark forces do not want the Jedi to come back. So the lightsaber smith is in trouble. He gets taken away by these Jedi hunters who also want to take away the lightsabers because, apparently no one has got lightsabers anymore, which I think is a really interesting part of this universe, of this galaxy. And I'd love to know what happened. Like, where'd the lightsabers go? Who has all the lightsabers? I think that's a really neat idea to play with, that if they do a sequel to this episode, whether it's in a novel or another animated series next, maybe not a series, but another episode in like a season 2 of Visions, I think there's so much fun stuff to play with. They've really built an interesting, their very own interesting Star Wars universe to tell fun stories in, and I'm intrigued by some of the mysteries that exist in this one. We assume the Jedi are dead. There's multiple Siths, and it's all fascinating. I want to know more. I wanted to ask you guys real quick, what'd you think of the Jedi that we meet at the temple? Obviously Ethan is very, we'll just call him a human, but what did you think of the other species that we got to see in the mix? There's this sort of this wonderful blend of familiar and new with a lot of them. Was one of them a Pantoran? Maybe, but a lot of them were species that I couldn't place, and again, but just visually interesting at the very, very least. And one of them I couldn't help, and he's the first one that gets killed in the episode. And I don't recall his name, but he looked like a big robot guy, right? So much reminded me of a comic book character from Marvel, from the Marvel UK series, Death's Head. That was the character's name. If you Google Death's Head, it's a very similar look to this Jedi, this Jedi in finger quotes, spoilers. um, so by all means, Google it, see for yourselves. Let me know if I'm crazy. But his look definitely reminded me of Death's Head from Marvel Comics back in the '80s, and I think they brought the Death's Head back. If anyone is interested in that sort of thing, I do think he came back into play in recent years. We'll put it that way. And I'm a big Death's Head fan, so that was like, ooh, that guy looks like Death's Head. That's kind of fun. Let's also back up a little bit further here. Let's talk a little bit more about Kara. She is she's basically the central protagonist. I mean, we meet Ethan first, but I think we spend more important time with Kara, establishing her relationship with her father and sort of her connection to the Force. And it's interesting. It seems like in this interpretation of Star Wars that a lot of people have like an innate ability to connect with the Force in some way. It's just like, how strong is your connection to the Force? And I think that's a very interesting thing, because it shows that many of these characters have to respect the Force. All characters have to respect the Force. We don't see that in Star Wars very often. It's sort of a strange concept to a lot of beings in the Star Wars galaxy. There's sort of like this air of mystery about the Jedi and the Force, particularly in Luke's day. But even with the Republic, there's still sort of this aura of mystery around the Jedi and the Force, and no one seems to have a great grasp of it. And you can even see that in the High Republic novels that are out, the one by Charles Soule and the one by Kevin Scott. Also the same thing, like a lot, the average Joe in the galaxy doesn't know a ton about the Jedi, the Force, or how any of that stuff works. I guess they just don't have like a Wikipedia to look this stuff up with, or in Star Wars fans' case, a Wikipedia. And as we all know, Wikipedia is a great resource for finding out all the juicy details about anything you need to know about in Star Wars. So it's always interesting. In this interpretation of Star Wars, though, it seems to be a little bit different. And I like that. I think that's a really fun thing to do. So Kara, when she's making her escape with the lightsabers, we get to see her on her speeder. We get a nice little speeder bike chase kind of setup, and we get to see her springing to action. Turning around, using her connection to the Force, wielding a lightsaber, deflecting blaster bolts, batting them back at her pursuers, and then you get the nice scene on the frozen lake. So a lot of really great, quick, high tempo action stuff, and we see this character's potential, her potential to be a Jedi. So I think at this point, if we haven't figured it out by now, we know who the Ninth Jedi is going to be. But also at this point is when we go back up to the temple, and the robot that is there Margrave Yarrow's sort of I don't know, servant droid who's sort of telling these Jedi that, oh yeah, don't worry, he'll be here any time now. Just relax. We find out there's a little twist with that as well. But the Jedi are starting to get impatient. They have questions. They want to know more about Jarrow. And the droid has a single lightsaber, and it's Ethan who is the one that takes it. And I think that's intentionally and by design, so that we do not get to see what we see later on in the episode. So Ethan tests it out. He fires it up. Blue lightsaber blade. The colors of the lightsabers in this episode, I think, are really well done, really well used. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as the episode kind of plays out. What happens next is, so Ethan has his lightsaber, and that sort of is putting the other Jedi, all right, this seems like legit. We're going to stick around. Meanwhile, back on the planet, Kara has to get up to the temple. She has to deliver the lightsabers to Jarrow. To Jarrow. And she has to get there on a ship, and she has to get a pilot droid to take her. I really enjoyed this pilot droid who's like on his break, and he's sitting there. I'm assuming he's sipping like hot oil, but it definitely looked like tea, which was even funnier to me. But I enjoy he's very slow. He's very methodical. He sips his hot oil drink, and reluctantly has to take her, transport her up to the temple, and she gets there. But it's a really funny sequence. I like that droid quite a bit. I was amused. So we get there. The lightsabers are delivered. The Jedi take their lightsabers, and they activate them, and that is when we see the true colors of the Jedi, because they're not Jedi. Their lightsabers glow red. Again, remember, their connection to the Force tells us who they are. They are Sith. They are Sith. And then springing into action. Margrave Jaro climbs out of the droid that he was inhabiting there, spying on the Jedi the entire time. He knew something was fishy was going on. He knew something was up. And then we spring into action, and we get a great lightsaber battle. And, it's between the reveal of the Sith with the red blades, Jaro coming out of the droid, which, again, not a shocking twist in that regard. I just thought it was a cool reveal. Really enjoyed the reveal. And then him springing into action, and we see that he's quite capable with the lightsaber as he cuts down one of these Sith right away. And then we spring into action with Jaru, Kara, and Ethan engaging in lightsaber battles, and Jaru very quickly dispatches many of these Sith. Ethan gets into a battle with many Sith, and he needs help. He's the one who's very much a Padawan. He does not seem to have the strongest connection to the Force, which I think is very, very interesting, considering he was also the first character that we spent any time with in the episode. But we see Kara do battle, and interestingly enough, she's doing battle with this character named Rodan. It's big, which, by the way, Rodan I just thought was a funny name. I was like, that's a great name for a Jedi, but it's also the name of a kaiju. So I loved it even more. And and what was great about all of that is what happens during the battle sequence where Rodan is asking, like, who are you? And what happens with his lightsaber blade is very, very interesting because, again, when he fires it up, he's got a red lightsaber, implying that he's Sith. He's straddling the dark side of the Force. That is what we are told, as what is implied, and I have no reason to doubt any of it, right? But during this battle, and seeing Kara's skill set and seeing the way in which he's battling, he sort of pauses. He sort of wonders very openly about, like, what's happening right here? What's going on? And I think that's supposed to allow us, because we see his lightsaber blade change colors. What color does it go to? It goes to purple, my friends. It goes to purple, the color of Mace Windu, which I think many of us will remember the fact that Mace Windu's lightsaber form, which is Form 7, is a form that straddles the light and the dark. And that was given, I don't know if it's still considered canon, but that was given as the reason why his lightsaber blade was purple, a mixing of the blue of a Jedi and the red of a Sith. And that's exactly what we got to witness with this, as we see him kind of come back towards the light. So this Rodan character, much in the vein of Mace Windu, can sort of walk the line between light and dark. Sometimes he may fall one way or the other, but he can be pushed back. And that's exactly what happens when Juro tells him, hey, get it together, man. Be cool. Not those exact words, but be cool. And he does. And powers down the lightsaber. He asks for forgiveness. He was influenced by the darkness of the others. So, again, interesting characters here. Kara's an interesting character. Ethan's an interesting character. I want to know more about Juro. He seems to be on the side of right. He wants to restore the Jedi Order. He wants to bring them back. He wants to end the conflict in the galaxy. And by the way, he had a really cool look too. Like, I liked his outfit as the ruler of High Islam. I thought he had some good togs he was wearing, and just a very visually fascinating episode of the show. I love the interplay with the colors of the lightsabers, the way they sort of are the colors are based on that Force user. I really dug a lot of that stuff. I thought it was a lot of fun, and that would be something I'd love to see a more exploration of. A very interesting slice of this new Star Wars galaxy in this episode. Would you love more? I would love more. Maybe it's time to demand more. We got the Make Solo 2 happen hashtag going on. Why not make the 10th Jedi happen? Something along those lines. I'm sure we can think of something more clever. We'll have to workshop that a little bit. By all means, reach out. You know how to find me. And we'll workshop that hashtag, because I'd love to see more tales set in this slice of Star Wars visions. I think there's some really interesting stuff going on here. A lot of really fascinating things happening, and it would be a fun slice of the galaxy to go back and explore later on down the road, especially if there is a season 2 of Visions, or perhaps even sort of like an expanded version of Visions. Like maybe they pick, some of the fan favorite ones, some of the ones that are the most well received, and give them like a mini series, or like a I don't know, like a feature length animated movie or something along those lines. It'd be this would be one of the ones that I would want to see. So that's really exciting and really cool, and I would definitely dig more of this one. The Ninth Jedi. Ooh, it's so darn close to being my favorite. It's right up there. Like that and the Duel are very neck and neck, and much like Rodan, I can be swayed to either side of the fence at any given moment. But I do really like what's in this episode. I think it's a really, really strong one. It has a lot of great things in it, a lot of good things going for it. The animation's fantastic. The colors pop. And again, it's just dynamic. It's very, very dynamic storytelling. And I love it. It's a great one. It's a really, really good one. If you didn't dig this one as much as me, well, there it is. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. We can be different people. We can still respect each other. That's the bottom line. All right. And that's it. I don't think I have anything else to say about this episode. Actually, one more thing to mention. One more cool little nugget from this episode. I love the closing shot. We pull back to the temple as the ship's leaving, rocketing off for the next adventure to go rescue Kara's father, potentially. And the temple has like that ray of light coming out of it from the lightsaber from the battle when the one Sith fell onto that giant crystal. The camera then flips, and we see that light shooting out from the temple, and we realize what we're looking at is the hilt of a lightsaber, which I thought was very, very cool. And I mean, they didn't need to do the lightsaber effect. I feel like we got it. Like that maybe was a touch heavy-handed, but I still really, really dug it. A really nice way to close out the episode and close out this little adventure that we were on with these characters. And again, intrigued, want to know more, give me more, do that spin-off novel. Let's do it. All right. Yes! The Ninth Jedi. Awesome episode. I hope you all dug it as much as I did. But we're going to get out of here now. We ran a little long. We were talking about the new books coming out. And yeah, that's okay, though. Don't worry. So, hey, you know where to find me. My name is Tom. This is the Mando Vision podcast. We are on social media. We are at Mando_Vision on Twitter and Instagram. You can email the show, mandovisiontom@gmail.com. If you do that Facebook thing, we do have a Facebook page, but it's very similar to the Twitter and the Instagram. But still, give it a like. It makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside when people do. So I appreciate it very, very much. Remember, like, subscribe, share the show with all the other Mandalorians in your covert. If possible or so inclined, we love the 5-star reviews. They are so insanely helpful, and they mean the world to me that you take the time to write those, because I do read them when they pop up and there's new ones. Trust me, I read them. I think I've read a couple of them on the show in the past. So yeah, keep it up. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being awesome. It still blows me away that so many of you listen to this show, engage with me on social media, and you know, the Star Wars fandom is just awesome. We are in a very the people who listen to this podcast in particular are very, very awesome. Everyone's been really, really nice, and maybe one day we'll all get to meet in the real world. If it's not too scary for me. I think we'll be fine. Don't worry, though. It's all good. Thank you. Let's get out of here. Like I said, you'll be hearing this on Monday, so I hope everyone had a great weekend. Hope everyone had a lot of fun. Maybe you watched some football. Maybe you watched some baseball playoffs. Or you just had an awesome time relaxing and being a rad human being. And that's awesome and important, too. So do that. Be well... Bill and Ted, be excellent to each other out there, okay? We'll close it out on that note. All right. What else for y'all? Again, stay tuned. More Star Wars Visions episodes coming up. And we will get back to the Clone Wars very, very soon. But yeah, I still want to finish reviewing these individually, because I think these creators put in the work, and the least I can do is put in the work and review each episode individually and talk about each one's merits. And yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're going to wrap that up, and it'll be soon. It'll be soon. We're going to be on episode 6 by Friday. And there's just 3 more. And maybe that last week, maybe you get 3 in a week. Ooh. Did I just spoil something? It's called a tease, fellas. It's called a tease. You love it. Stay tuned. We'll be back. Thanks for listening once again. And remember, this podcast can only end one way. This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.
You expect me to search the galaxy for the home of this creature and deliver it to a race of enemy sorcerers?
This is the way.